Hi, I'm Pauline. I'm the founder of Imaginif, and I'm here today with Rebecca, who was the communications director at Gleeds when we worked together in coaching. So thanks very much for being here today, Rebecca. So if you can just talk to me about what drew you to coaching initially.
Yes. Gleeds actually offered coaching as a follow-on from a leadership program that they were running. And so I took up coaching as part of that. And I think one of the reasons that it appealed to me was at the time, I lacked a kind of peer group. I spent a lot of my time with my team who all reported into me, which was lovely, but it just kind of meant I didn't really have much of a group of people that I could chat to about some of the things I might have been struggling with and kind of get feedback in that way. So I decided to take up coaching to help me kind of just check in with myself, to help me self-regulate, and hopefully sort of, bring the best me to work. That was kind of my aim, I think, when I first sort of signed up. And it subsequently became a really special time for me. It was, I think, so special because it was time away from everything just to focus on me. And so it became really precious.
Yeah. And can you share what your experience was like and how different that was from what you expected it to be like?
Yeah, so in terms of how I found coaching, I found the whole experience really liberating. That was kind of the word that came to me when you asked that question. We worked together for about 2 years, and when I look back at that time, I know it sounds kind of a bit dramatic, but it was really transformational. And it's not to say that I'm a completely different person, but it really helped me to tap into a new level of comfort and confidence, I think, that I'd not experienced before. And so the whole process was just really releasing and reaffirming as well. I think when I look back at kind of how we spent our time, there were some conversations that were really tailored to a particular situation or a challenge maybe that I was kind of working through. And so the outcome from those sorts of conversations would often be, quite practical, very specific, and would be things that I would be able to implement to help me kind of move through that situation. But then on other occasions, we were actually having really introspective conversations and really personal conversations about, for example, maybe beliefs and ways of thinking that maybe weren't serving me that well. And so the outcomes from those sorts of conversations were kind of much more gradual, but then a lot more profound as well. And so overall, I think that coaching's just given me a boldness, really, and it's kind of helped me make some quite big changes in my life, which I'll talk a little bit about later on. I think with regards to your second question about what my expectations were, I suppose I was introduced to coaching through work, so I perhaps thought that the discussions would be very focused on situations, scenarios in the workplace. But in actual fact, in my opinion, coaching is far more holistic and introspective than that. It's really about looking at attitudes, mindset, beliefs, and how they affect your whole life. And so actually, I ended up embarking on a journey that really reconnected me to some values and some priorities that were really important to me, but perhaps had just got a bit muddied and forgotten about due to the busyness of life. So I suppose to summarise, I think the introspection was the surprise for me, but I found it a really refreshing one, and one that I actually ended up really relishing. in a weird way, even though it was hard, you know, at times. But yeah.
Yeah. And you said it was hard at times. What was that challenging for you? And if so, how was that challenging?
I think the challenge came when we started to really try and unpick thinking that actually goes really deep, and it is almost part of sort of, or has become so ingrained that it's sort of part of who you are, but it's something that's not really serving you. And I think in terms of a specific example that I can share, to sort of bring that to life a little bit, I think I found letting go of what other people thought about me, essentially, really, really hard. So that was one of the things that was a real challenge for me. And it took quite a lot of time for me to unpack why that it meant so much to me, why others' opinions sort of meant so much to me. And to then learn to sort of think in a different way, really, and just to let go and realise that I can't control what people think of me, what they think about other things. I can just be the best me that I can be and be happy with that. Which sounds really easy to say, and it sounds so great, doesn't it? You think, yeah, I want to be that person, but actually stepping into that, you know, you actually really need to do a little bit of digging so that you can be released into that. And it's totally possible, but it just requires a bit of work and time. And so, you know, it wasn't just one conversation that you and I had, it was a number of conversations over a number of years to really be able to embrace that. And you know, and it meant feeling quite uncomfortable on a number of occasions. You and I would have discussions about things, and we'd chat about, okay, well, maybe we just need to try, you need to give this a go next time this happens. Why don't you take a slightly different approach? And sometimes, like, I just think, I don't want to do that. That sounds awful. You know, that's just not me. It's just not me. But actually, giving, you know, having someone to help you think of another way of approaching something and then giving it a go, I think is one of the best ways to learn. But was really helpful, because actually in being uncomfortable for a short amount of time, it then became much easier to sort of sit with that initial uncomfortableness, to then enjoy feeling much happier and more relaxed over a longer period of time, you know. So that was the sort of thing that on occasion did feel quite challenging.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, because it is, you know, one of the great things about coaching is getting comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, because that's really where the juiciness is around, you know, an area of growth or something like you just shared, which a lot of people, including myself, have an issue with. You know, what do people think of me?
Yes.
And when you think about it intellectually, of course you can't change what lots and lots of people think about you, but it does influence us in the way we live our lives often.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I do is I would almost take responsibility for the happiness of my team. And so if I saw someone that wasn't that was unhappy, I would take it upon myself. Yeah, they wouldn't know, but I would be killing myself to try and make sure that everyone was happy. And actually, that's not in my control. Yes, it's my responsibility as a leader of that team to set an environment where everyone feels comfortable and can perform at their best, but it's not my responsibility to make someone happy. No. I can't do that. That's not, you know, and it sounds so, when you say it out loud, you think, oh yeah, that's silly. But for years I did that. I took that burden on, and I was knackered most of the time. I read back, this is my little pink book that Pauline will recognise. I used to bring it to my coaching sessions and write notes and things, and I did a bit of journaling in it. And honestly, the amount of times I write the word anxious, stressed, exhausted, I'm not surprised I was exhausted.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And what would you say, you said that things changed in your life. What were the highlights for you?
So in terms of highlights, I'd say coaching has really helped me to refocus, and to look at where I want to put my energy. When I first started coaching, I was looking for a hobby, really, something that was outside of work that would give me joy and help me unwind. That was kind of one of the goals that I'd set myself. And I ended up stumbling across this gardening course. I wouldn't say I was a gardener by any stretch of the imagination, but I just thought that sounds quite nice, be something to do. It's outdoors. And so I signed up, and a couple of months later, Pauline and I, we got chatting, and I just mentioned that I'd talked about this course. And I remember you saying to me, your whole face has just changed. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do.
You said to me, your body language, everything has just changed. And that was a really big turning point for me. And I think that's what's really special about coaching, actually, because you're with someone who is there being, is observing you and is giving you that feedback that maybe a friend might notice, but they wouldn't necessarily think to kind of say anything about it. And so I found that observation really helpful and really revealing. And so I did an awful lot, my mind, I started to sort of daydream. And I knew that I had found something in gardening that was really special. It had sort of unlocked something in me that I hadn't felt for a long time. And I think it was a mixture of things. I think it was a mixture of creativity. It was learning something new. And it was being in nature as well. I think that was the big thing. But I think the idea of making gardening a bigger part of my life felt far too risky. I'd say I'm not the sort of person that just throws caution to the wind and goes and tries something completely different. But we're a year or so on from that, and I'm a month into a garden design course. I have left Gleeds, and I'm embarking on a new career. So it turns out I am that person. I absolutely am that person. And I think that really what coaching did for me was to help me reframe how I approach choices in life. And I'd say in the past, I would look at those sorts of decisions as risks. I would have classed those as risks. But now I just see them as options. And it's just a choice. It's not something to be frightened of. It's something, to be excited about. So I would say that's been my highlights, my big highlights.
Yeah, that is a big one, and it is exciting. It's exciting to hear you talk about that. And what would you say to anyone who is thinking about having coaching, but they're not sure whether they go on a course or whatever, or have one-to-one coaching? What would you say?
I would say go for it. I think it's interesting. I suppose if you're someone who is not familiar with coaching, you could maybe have some preconceived ideas about what it might be. You might feel that, oh, well, I don't really need coaching because I haven't really got a problem. There's nothing really that I need to work through. But actually, that's, coaching can help you if you've got a particular problem. But actually, I think there is such value in setting some time aside from the busyness of life to just check in with yourself and keep in touch with that person that you want to be, or maybe reconnect with that person because maybe you've lost touch with it. I think that is really, really valuable. And so I think just kind of approaching it with a really open mind, and, just seeing where the conversations take you, because I think it would be virtually impossible for you to predict, and you probably will not end up in the place that you think you will, if you see what I mean. I don't think it's the sort of process that you can predict the outcome of. It's a very fluid process. And so, yes, I don't think that you need to have, a problem that you need necessarily, that you need help with. I think it can just be really helpful to have some time for you. And I think the other thing is, I don't see coaching as a one-off sort of event that you do in life. I think it is a tool that you can use throughout your life and come back to. So, for now, I've sort of stopped my coaching for now, but it's definitely something that I want to pick up again at another point. So again, I don't think it's this tool that's just one-off use. I think it's something that you can use throughout life to just help you keep in touch with yourself and kind of navigate through life, really. I think that's really important. And I'd say, in terms of, my experience of having coaching with you, I think, what I would say is that your approach to life is just infectious and inspiring, and I'd always leave so pumped, after seeing you. It was just wonderful, and so that was really special as well. So yeah, anyone working with you will be blessed by that.
Thank you, that's very kind of you to say. And is there anything else you would like to share?
I think the other thing, I suppose this maybe fits in with the question you've just asked about what would I say to people. I think the other thing is, we say coaching. I just wonder if people might associate it with, particularly in the workplace, a certain level of seniority. If you are in a work context, coaching, certainly my experience in the workplace, it tended to be something that was accessible to a certain level, particularly sort of director level. And actually, I remember even thinking when I was having coaching that actually it would just be so useful for other people. Again, it's not something that's just relevant for us, if you're at a certain level in your career. In fact, I got so I was so kind of I enjoyed the coaching process so much that I was kind of raving about it to my mum, and she ended up just signing up for a couple of life coaching sessions with a lady that lived near her. She only sort of had 3 or 4 sessions, but she, I just enjoyed it so much that she kind of thought, oh, I want some of that. So I think it's for everyone. So if you are sort of thinking, oh well, that doesn't really apply to me, actually it absolutely is for everyone. So
yeah, it is. That's wonderful. Thanks very much for sharing that, Rebecca. I really appreciate it, and thanks for your time today.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, bye.